it's not about only waking up at 5 a.m. If you're waking up at 5 a.m. and checking your SMSs and your Facebook notifications and checking how many people like your post and comments, you might as well sleep for the next 2 hours. But I have a routine. So 5 to 6 a.m. I have a certain routine which I follow. And at that time, I don't want to use my phone. It's about really planning the day. And I've started doing that regularly. And I did that even before COVID. And it was a little easier for me to kind of, adapt to it as well, even during these times. So I still wake up early. I don't get too distracted in the morning. I try to stay away from gadgets. And I really start planning my day. And then when I start doing that, I've seen myself a lot more productive, a lot more organized, a lot more productive. The amount of impact that I drive across everything I do is a lot better. And that's probably how I go about it. I think not everyone can wake up at 5 or even before that. If you're a person who happens to wake up at 7:30, there's this common theme called "I'm not a morning person." What do you mean you're not a morning person? You have to wake up in the morning to go to work, right?
Yeah. I think that's bullshit.
If you can start,
I think that's a whole heap of bullshit. When you say you're not a morning person, I think you're just making excuses for yourself.
Yeah, I mean it's for some it's like a very nice cool thing. I'm not a morning person. I'm like, what do you mean you're not a morning person? You have to wake up in the morning to do your work. So I think it's a question of incremental improvement. And if you really want to improve, maybe you don't have to wake up if you're waking up today at 8 and if you want to wake up at 5, maybe that's tough. Can you start waking up at 7:30 and then can you push yourself to wake up at 7, maybe 6:30 and you start making incremental progress. I still do an average of about 10 meetings a day, mostly Zoom calls. Plus I'm also involved in a few national initiatives to help out with planning during this time.
Nice.
So I do go out for those meetings and I come back.
Nice.
But still I do quality 10 meetings a day. And I finish my mails and I'm done by 7:38. I'm done. Sometimes I have a few calls in the night because of the various geographies I work with. But other than that, I'm quite cool about this whole thing. I don't like what's happening. Obviously, I don't like people falling sick. I don't like the overall impact to the country. But I can't keep thinking about it and and do nothing about it. So if I can do something myself and inspire 10 more people to do that, I think that's my contribution.
Great. I mean, because that's something that is, I think a lot of us struggle. I mean, for me, I'll be honest, even though I work from home for the last 6, 7, whatever, 8 years, we always had that little, location changes that happened in between. We went to a coffee shop, we came back and all that. So for me, this is like the first time, being at home and working. I don't know whether I set a very high standard at the beginning or whatever, but I think, only now it's kind of really settling in and I'm getting into the productive. But one thing, as you rightfully said, one of the good things I got the chance to do now is I started reading, which is a habit that I just couldn't do when I was going to office. But now I at least read a couple of pages 3 times a day, early in the morning, maybe midday when I feel bored of working. I have a half an hour break, read a couple of pages, now again in the night type of thing. I think that's a massive, it just changes your brain, I think, completely. Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And have you realized that you are actually saving more money now?
Machang,
you can actually not afford to spend on those, and you just realize that you don't really have to spend on those things.
You are absolutely right. And I think, I didn't want to say this. I was just realized that, you really don't have to spend so much money. And I'm just asking myself, on normal months, I sometimes struggle at the end of the month. And now, I didn't even know, there's money in the bank account just sitting. And I'm like...
Precisely.
It's weird.
Precise. Yeah, I think it's a great way to drive self-discipline.
Yeah, you're right.
I think the question I'll ask myself once this whole thing is over is, what have I learned during the lockdown?
Yeah.
That I'm going to implement post-lockdown. That's going to make a change in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it applies for an individual.
Yeah.
It applies for organizations. Even organizations will obviously run the business a lot more tighter these days, given the situation.
Yeah.
But the idea is that can you still use some of those practices even during good times in the way you run it? So what have we learned during a lockdown, personally, professionally, and as an organization, that we can take forward even when things are normal?
I think you're absolutely right, man. So let me come back to like a area which is the digital banking side, right? So, man, I mean, I have been one of those people who have got, as a customer, been very frustrated with the entire, the banking and all that type of thing. I mean, I run a company, a startup, as you might be knowing. Obviously, the problem is now is the collections. So it's not that you don't even have the money, but just that people at home, the checks are not there. Everybody's finding a reason not to pay because they are all scared, and everybody wants to hold on to the money they have. There's stuff going on, and then obviously, as the first line of defense, you go to your financial institutes and ask for some kind of a leverage for a couple of months until things sorted out, and there's enough documentation, proof to say, and you have been banking with them and all that. And I think, forget that. I mean, even as an individual, the KYC and all that, I mean, it had never really, honestly, have not worked for me thus far. In any most of the banks, even whether it's a global bank or a Sri Lankan bank, it hadn't really worked for me. So I often ask myself, in this time and age, when there's so much technology, so much things going on, why are we still behind? And I want to hear from you, because you are one of the guys whom I look up to, who will drive a change in this industry. No pressure, right? So, I mean, can you share with me your thought process on what's going on, and what do you think is doing, and what is you all are doing right now?
Yeah, so I think we have engaged in about 2 or 3 projects right now with some of the local banks in terms of really kind of revamping the core infrastructure and building solid digital services on top of this. So unfortunately, my clients are going through implementation.
Right.
But one of the things I've been encouraged by is none of the banks actually stopped the progress of that implementation despite these issues.
Nice.
So which means now is that I think the message is that the banks are eager to make sure these things are moving,
Right.
so that they're able to provide better services to customers. I think if I look at the banking industry, let's say 3 years ago versus today in terms of the digital services, I think it's a lot more. I think the question is, how much have we adopted?
Yeah.
Is a question.
Yeah.
I'll take a very simple example. You run a company and I run a company. You'll probably have a lot of the customers not paying you your daily monthly returners, saying that the banks are closed or we are unable to go to the bank because of the curfew.
Oh yeah.
But banks have been offering internet or slips-based transfers for organizations to enroll for a very long time. So my question to all these companies who say they still want to issue checks and they want us to come and collect checks, and obviously we can't because of the curfew, why haven't they actually enrolled for? Why are we still in this old era of check, getting checks signed and everything?